Hello and welcome to a time special presentation for Thirukkural with the Times, where we explore real-world lessons from the classic Tamil text Thirukkural with motivational speaker, author and diversity champion Bharathi Baskar as she explores the masterpiece. We follow the notes of a flutist and look into the soul to find the meaning of true happiness. As Hungarian psychologist Mihai Csikszentmihalyi, who dedicated his life to understanding the essence of happiness, believed true happiness arises when we find ourselves immersed in an activity where time seems to stand still and the outside world fades into oblivion. Thiruvalluvar too gives us his take on the true meaning of happiness.
A relative of mine spoke about an experience during his youth. His friend took him to meet Flute Mali. Their assignment was to bring Mali to the venue where his flute concert was to be held that day at 7 p.m. T.R. Mahalingam, or Flute Mali, as he was popularly known, was one of a kind maverick genius who broke stereotypes in every possible way. Mali was a known alcoholic and was regularly late for his programs. As expected, the music maestro turned down the two young lads who came to pick him up. Unable to convince Mali, they returned to the venue. The place was already packed with more than 1,000 people, and it was only 6 p.m. The organizers repeatedly visited Mali's house, trying to bring the legend to the program. But isn't it a secret known only to God whether the program would be performed that day by Mali or not? The crowd was swelling and the time was ticking. Finally, it was 10 p.m. when Mali arrived. He did not apologize for the delay, nor allowed anyone to waste time with ritualistic welcome addresses, etc., but started the program head on. He started with Mangalam, which is usually performed at the end of the program, but nevertheless continued his flute recital and enthralled the audience. Within the first few minutes, it was apparent why the crowd waited patiently. Mali had constructed an invisible bridge between him and the audience. He was able to walk on the bridge, holding their hands, touching their hearts, all through his music. Mali stopped the program abruptly at 1 a.m. and walked away. The crowd dispersed. My relative and his friend walked through the streets, which were filled with people heading back to their houses. But what was strange was that no one spoke a word. God created them for this day, and the day was over. There is nothing more that was to be said. They were all there, sitting for over 7 hours. No one bothered to leave, even for a short recess. To eat, to take a bio break, to stretch a numb leg. No, nobody moved. It was like their mind's containment took over their bodily needs. Is there a scientific explanation for this? I searched and arrived at the concept of flow. Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi, Hungarian psychologist, introduced flow theory in the 1970s based on his research on people who did activities for pleasure even when they were not rewarded with money or fame. He was surprised to discover that enjoyment did not result from relaxing or living in luxury, but in performing activities in which their attention was fully absorbed. He called the state flow because during his research, people illustrated their experiences using the metaphor of being carried in a flow of a river. Mihaly C. was a prisoner during World War II and suffered from trauma. He devoted his entire life to finding an answer to a simple question: what constitutes happiness? He declared that wealth, possessions, relationships, and power do not provide happiness. What provides happiness is a mental state in which a person is involved in an activity and fully immersed in it with a feeling of energized focus. Time seems to stand still. People around you do not matter. It is as though their bodies do not need auxiliary factors like hunger, thirst, sleep, etc. If you have ever done something where you did not stop to check your phone or your watch or check what was available in the kitchen but just continued as you did not want to stop, you have experienced happiness. Just like my relative that day who had the privilege of being in that musical treat of flute mani. Thiruvalluvar must have seen some of his disciples listening to his words of wisdom without even taking a break for food. When he stopped his oration, his students reluctantly left and went to eat, and they ate little. They ate only to get some strength to come back to his classes. The wisdom emanating from the flow of his words was so mesmerizing that they plunged themselves into the bliss of listening. Treat for their ears was far more essential than a treat for the tummies. Valluvar observed the flow and wrote this couplet. Sevikku Unavu Illaadha பொழுது Siridhu Vayirukkum Eeyap. When the food for the ear dries up, only then little food for stomach becomes a necessity. When the food for the ear dries up, only then little food for the stomach becomes a necessity.